Hi guys, my name is Nitin Sachdeva, co-chair for Meeting Means Business. In today's Positivity Campaign episode, I have with me Mr. Ashish Kumar, who has been an industry veteran for 40 years. He's been a thought leader, an agent of change, a co-chair for Travel Technology Committee for FICCI. He has worked in several positions, CXO positions, in various brands like Reliance, like International Travel House, and has managed various divisions within the travel hospitality domain. Welcome, Ashish. Thanks so much for joining the Positivity campaign.
Thank you, Nathan, for having me.
Well, the first thing that I want to pose in front of you is this question of the crisis. Everybody knows that this is a crisis, but what are the positive thoughts that you think that people should actually consider to make it an opportunity for them?
Right. Well, firstly, Nitin, I've always been a strong believer that in almost every adversity lies a ray of hope. And nobody is closer to it than the travel industry itself, which has witnessed from financial stress of Lehman Brothers across the world to the 9/11, to various viruses and epidemics across the world. So therefore, travel industry as such has not been agnostic to adapting itself. But what is more important today is, and to draw positivity out of it, is that one must be conscious of the things which has happened. If we think we're going to be an ostrich and put our head in the sand and say, "Oh, it'll all blow away," I think is the most negative thought one could have in mind, right? And at the same time, I don't want people to be overly optimistic to think, "Oh, there's nothing gone wrong, and tomorrow morning everything will be fine," because the tomorrow which will dawn is going to be different from the yesterday,
For sure.
right? And that thing which dawns in the travel industry will have two facets of it. One is the social impact, and second, of course, is the financial impact. Unfortunately, what I see around with me in gloom and doom on the travel side of it is all discussions on the financial impact. But to me, the social and psychological impacts have a far-reaching positivity around it than the financials, because financials are a matter of cash flows, according to me.
Right.
You need the money to be able to tide over till such time you're in a position to tide over. Right? So financials are nothing but cash flow. But the social changes, because if you look at the travel from early 1800 and from the time of Marco Polo, if you see, it's the social changes which is changing the way people travel, the way people buy, the way people choose, the way people decide destinations. And I think something similar is going to happen today. So when I say that, let me elaborate. If I was running, and obviously it's different for every business vertical. So if I was running today a tour operating outfit, be it big or large or medium, which specialized in holidays outside India, which specialized in holidays within India, and I'll come to the inbound holiday aspect separately for a minute. What I need to see is that who are the people who are going to buy. The choices of destinations today will be different, and actually the whole narrative should be actually broken into three parts, according to me. Part number one is the immediate part of a lockdown. And when I use the word lockdown, people should view positively. The lockdown is not the 14th of April or the extension you talk about as far as India is concerned. Lockdown is a whole pipeline of lockdown across the world, because the travel and tourism is incubated in a larger world perspective. You need to travel out to UK, and if UK is in the lockdown for 6 months, argument's sake, what good it is for a lockdown in India, so to say, for a travel. The second factor, so therefore, the lockdown period and managing the cash flows during the lockdown period is an important aspect. And the second part is the social aspect during the lockdown, which effectively means that you got to prepare for the future. And that preparation for the future will come from understanding of the social needs. So therefore, put it very mildly, I would say, if you look at a rating company like TripAdvisor, which advocates the star rating to various hotels, resorts, destination, I really would probably see a safety meter coming up tomorrow. Safety of destination, safety of resort, safety of products, etc. How safe do people should be feeling in this? And it's a perceived safety and a narrated safety. So people will, the choice of destinations will be based on what they perceive as safe destination. And that will stem for both incoming into India and outgoing into India. Obviously, without being negative to Spain, it's not something you will perceive to be a very safe holiday destination immediately if you were to talk about it for the moment. The second aspect will be holidays which confine you to large groups. If you put it in a tour operating perspective, whether you looked at large group departures, be it in MICE or be it in tour operating, would the demographics change? I think the positive side of that is that you will have a lot of unbundled offerings coming in. I would like to see the larger companies offering gift holiday, where independently each of the channels may be able to choose where they want to go, when they want to go, rather than being herded in a bus of 200 people together, which they may or may not in at least the short and medium term. So therefore, that's the way you need to frame your thought. And obviously, technology plays a great role because it's all easy said and done, or that I'm going to offer FIT holidays and single holidays. But, so the third aspect, which will also advocate the strong use of technology, is the age demographics. People, frankly, I'm in that bracket. If you're 60 and over, they were one of the largest travelers worldwide, not necessarily in India, but worldwide. They came into India in that because they had plenty of time. There were no pressures on finances for Europeans or Americans to come into India to travel. So therefore, the 60s and beyond, and people with underlying health conditions may feel to really look at giving up that I care a damn attitude and travel wherever I want to in the world, because safety again would be paramount. If that happens, do you see a younger breed of travelers coming in? And if there's a younger breed of travelers which are coming in, then obviously you got to be talking the language younger breed of audience understands. So whether it's digitalization, whether it's technology pay, and I'm not necessarily here saying the false narrative of OTA versus non-OTA, big versus small, and so on, debates which are flounders in the industry, which I'm dead against, but something which makes the younger audience feel that you and I understand their language of changing dynamics. Right. So that's the third element I see. The fourth element I see is being confined to holidays in a space. Cruise, for example, is one such. I'm not too sure how comfortable one would feel at the age of 60 and above to be confined with 2,000 people for a 10-day voyage. Now, the question is, I may be shooting in the dark, and the cruise industry will certainly lobby to say bullshit. But I'll say that it'll certainly impact the short and the medium term. And anything which impacts the short and medium term will have changing dynamics in the future. Because I don't see cruise companies or the Cosmos or the Globus and the Coach Dares be able to tide over their cash flows in the shorter perspective to say, okay, 2 years later, when people adapt to changing with a group of 2,000, then I'll be sailing. It won't happen. They'll have to adapt today. But there are positiveness, because I think that changing behavior may overall grow the industry in the shorter term. I would certainly like to see people who have propensity to spend money, are more younger in their needs and tastes, traveling more. I don't personally advocate too much of this. Will they travel abroad more? Will they travel in India more? Because traveling within India is like many countries into one. So whereas I may feel very safe traveling to Rajasthan, but I may not feel very safe traveling to Maharashtra. It all depends. It's various countries, and there are various thoughts behind hygiene factor, behind various factors. So this is what I meant psychologically and socially. It's going to have a lasting impact. And for us to build positively, it is important for us to have these social understanding, adapting our business model, our technology processes to these needs. And the biggest positive which I have is that, of course, we know in India, travel is touching tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cities like never before. So therefore, if you have to touch them, then you have to touch them both virtually and physically. If you have to touch them virtually and physically, then we have to positively look at growing the market. And I think the market would grow if you are conscious of that. I'll give you a little example that social distancing and staying and work from home, to me, may have a very, very large impact, especially in the travel vertical. I know for a fact that travel verticals, big or small, have always felt, oh, I need my team in front of me to work. It's okay. The TCS and the Wipros and SCL know how to cope with off-site and on-site locations. But I don't think the travel industry has really understood mentally the art of working from home.
Yeah.
And the reasons are multifold. The reasons, of course, are they have not adapted to the processes in the manner they should be. Because if you work from home, your processes have to be very streamlined, where who's working from home is able to hand over something to you who's working from an official space in end-to-end solutions or whatever I may do in customer service inquiry and so on and so forth. And the other thing is, of course, managing the security of it. There's always been a fear that if an employee sat home and handled business, he's going to steal my data. And let's face it, I mean, what's to prevent me to do it while I sit in your office?
Sure.
So we've lived in very, very, very cobwebbed space, which I think will open up with, and what will that do socially? Straight away, I would see pressure, pressures on real estate being leased off, because real estate lease is a big cost in travel industry. So if I have a 5,000 square feet of space, tomorrow my scaling up requires another 2,000, I will look at processes which will be driven from home so that I stay in my 5,000 in years to come. And it'll happen. That's a very big positive. The other positive is that if I'm working from my home in Delhi, why can't I be working from my home in Jaipur or my home in Bareilly, right? So therefore, jobs in the travel industry, which were necessarily centered around big towns, could be dispersed across smaller towns of a bigger companies. So I would like to make my trip actually working across to say, I will see that 40% of my people work from the smaller towns and feed it into the larger hub. It's possible. Right? And the moment you do that, the positive of that is not only giving comfort and commuting and taking the congestion off the roads in your bigger city, but also your cost, because employees would be quite happy and willing to work at a lesser cost margins if they're able to work from their own homes in Bareilly. Right? Because living in a city is a larger cost for everybody. And there is a huge migration of people. We've seen it in case of labor. We haven't seen it in the case of blue collar workers, because there is a huge blue collar workers who are not necessarily belonging to Delhi and Mumbai and Bangalore, which are three of the largest travel hubs, if you look at the larger company and technology driven. So that to me is a very big positive in a social spacing. So coming back, I would also see the positives are that if you can manage your cash flow, look at investing your cash flow in emerging technologies. Yes. The cost of handling inquiries, be it for holidays, be it for corporate travel, be it for anything, is going to be far higher than it was before. Because here, people, corporates, customers will rig, and if you thought they asked you 5 questions before deciding, let me tell you, they'll ask you 50 questions now. So if they ask you 50 questions, either you should be equipped digitally to be handling those 50 questions or manually to be able to handle the questions. And today we know handling 50 questions manually costs a lot of money. So therefore, this is where I feel somewhere investment and labs need to come in emerging technologies, be it AI, be it machine learning, etc. Because if you look across the industry, as much as we would like to pride ourselves and say, oh, we give a very personalized service to our customers. But if you wake up in the morning, you will and ask your staff, what did you do something which is new today? They won't be able to recollect, that's in the past, pre-corona days I'm talking. They won't be able to recollect if they did anything new today. It's the same stereotype, same process they do day in, day out, which could easily be driven by the use of digitalization and technology. And I am not an advocate to say, oh, that personal voice is going away or that personal touch is going away, because technology is an aid. It's a tool to run your business. It's not a substitution for human being. It may reduce the human beings. It may empower the human beings to function better. Today, you and I are sitting at home and conducting a very healthy conversation, which in a normal time would have say, Nitin, let me grab a coffee with you and we'll talk this over. That will be the first impact. But you getting me on a Zoom, I feel as comfortable talking to you here than I would do over a cup of coffee.
Totally
Right?
agree.
So today, yeah. So those are all positives. I work very closely with the Outlook group. For example, I'll just give you an idea. And one of the narratives I'm building with them on the digital Outlook Traveler platform is the song of Bob Dylan, which says, "One more cup of coffee before I go," was hitting me too hard. What does it say? It says that, I'm inviting you for a cup of coffee, but on a digital platform,
Yeah.
right? To have a conversation. So again, coming back to our industry, the positives are, and the travel fraternity can drive that. They could drive a team building effort or employee engagement effort for corporations on multiple platforms, such as what you and I are conversation. So, I mean, that's in a broad and substance.
Perfect. Thank you so much for so many ideas and so many positives out of the situation. You being the evangelist of the emerging technologies, I'm sure you will be able to help a lot of people, and I'm going to drop your contact detail on the video so that people can contact you to really understand how they can use emerging technologies to help their businesses during this transformational time. But one question that I want to ask you is, during this crisis, that the economy is hit hard, and people are thinking just about the financial, which you just mentioned at the start of the conversation. What is your advice to leaders, companies, on the spend in the right investment manner? Like, for example, to invest in a technology, a lot of people think, a lot of small medium companies might think, oh, I don't have cash flow, how do I invest and automate my system? Do you have something to say to them? Because investment is important at this time.
Look, Nitin, running a business to me is running like your household.
Yes.
Right? If your cash is dried up, what will you do? You will start compromising on your way of life.
Sure.
You'll say, I'll go out less. I won't eat fruits 5 times a day. I won't do this. I won't do that. Right? So in many ways, if you look at the travel industry, it has 3 or 4 large costs. Employee costs being one, real estate costs being another, marketing and customer acquisition cost being the third. So these are 3 about the largest costs. So if you, and let me tell you, technology as a percentage of the entire industry is minuscule. So therefore, if I say I was spending 100 rupees, or I was getting in 105 rupees and I was spending 100 rupees in the past, and 5 rupees was my profit which I was keeping. Now I was doing perhaps 2 things with that 5 rupees. Either I was taking home that 5 rupees as a debenture and a equity profit, or I was reinvesting back a partial of it in my business. So promoters, first of all, and shareholders have to realize that the days of dividends on your investment, they have to sacrifice, allowing companies to reinvest their 5 rupees into the company, right? And whatever areas you choose to. Now I come back to that 100 rupees. So that 100 rupees itself will have to shrink to maybe 70 rupees. Now, how that will shrink is a solution you have to find, whether it means that and obviously technology will play a role to do that. And obviously if your processes, etc., if I spend some amount of money, I would be able to reduce the real estate costs, which I've just said, if it's possible. It may be able to reduce my human cost in a way forward. And in fact, upscale my human, because you will leave human beings who survive with you doing a more value-based work than they're doing today. Your own employees, who you call them very loyal and very intelligent, let me tell you, 80% of the job they do is a donkey's job, sorry to say. Yeah, I call it, when the ticketing business, I'll give you an example. Before the web and e-ticket came in, travel industry thought, if you had to pay a staff huge amount of money if you knew how to handle a GDS, or if you knew how to do a fare construction. But a time came when ticketing became an idiot-proof. I use the word idiot-proof. Even an idiot can issue his own ticket. You do it on a web, don't you? Right? It's the same way. Many jobs which exist today will go away if you put a proper use of technology.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you are investing 3 rupees out of the 5 rupees in technology, or anything you have cut out of that 100 rupees to make it 70, why technology investment makes sense is that ultimately you'll drive your human costs lower. what people don't look at is that wastage and inefficiency has a huge cost.
Right.
I may have a staff sitting handling 100 inquiries a day, spending a lot of time and with a very poor materialization. And if technology handled it and aided him better, he may be able to handle 110 or spend less time doing it. And these are costs which can be actually arbitrated to say, okay, if I spend 5 rupees, how do I get back my 5 rupees? 5 rupees doesn't necessarily come only from top line driven. It comes from rationalization of cost.
Sure.
So that's what it is. If you look at your own space, you may be on advertising and marketing and promotion. Fair enough, we keep cursing the digital media for making us spend a lot of bucks on it, be it Google or otherwise. But let's face it, the days of print ad, we spend a lot of money. Tour operators spend a lot of money, right? And do they spend that kind of money on print? No, not anymore, right? So therefore, our whole thoughts will have to change to make think that technology is a cost. Technology is not a cost. It's a cost today, but
investment.
It's a recovery tomorrow.
It's an investment.
It's a recovery. And I would leave you off with a final word, is that, if you think you can just buy technology, put it there and everything will work like a magic wand, then you're living in a very fool's paradise, because technology itself has to be adapted by people who drive it, has to be optimized by the way your staff embrace it. I've worked in projects where bigger companies have invested huge amount of monies in building travel platforms, but not adapted very well at the grassroots level, and they continued to duplicate the effort. They logged on to the technology platform and they did it manually as well, because they felt comfortable doing it manually, right? So I think that's the change. Promoters and shareholders have to uniformly join. And lastly, Nitin, travel is one of the largest communities you can find. It touches the lives of the weaver in Bhadoi, who makes the carpets for the tourists who come in. It touches the life of that guide in Monte Carlo who takes you around. It touches everybody's life.
Yeah.
And my message, if you can reach it to all of them, that you all are part of that huge community and can make a difference if each of you adapt yourself and not look at somebody else over the shoulder and say, but what is the government doing? What is the bigger company doing? But what can I do? Take that out of your mind, and that's the biggest positive you will bring on the table.
Thank you so much, Ashish. Thanks a lot for sharing these wonderful thoughts, because I think people need it today, and I'm sure this will help them a lot. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Nitin. Appreciate it again.